السلام عليكم طلاب. بمحاضرتنا في هذا اليوم راح ناخذ listening وراح ناخذ reading. طبعا بخصوص listening الفيديو هو عبارة عن تقريبا 2 إلى 3 minutes. أنا أخلي لكم اللينك مالته وبنفس الوقت أرفع لكم إياه على الجوجل كلاس، فما تريد تشوف عن طريق اللينك أو نزله من الجوجل كلاس. أول قطعة ويانا هو ستونهنج. ستونهنج هنا صخور مرتبية بطريقة معينة موجودة ببريطانيا في منطقة قريبة لندن، يعني ضواحي لندن أو هيك شيء. إذا تريد تشوف اليوتيوب الفيديو مالته موجود على اليوتيوب. إحنا شنو اللي موجود عندنا هنا؟ أكو أسئلة وبيها خيارات، وهنا اللي جوا كاتب لك الترانسكريبشن. الترانسكريبشن هو جملة مقتطعة من التسجيل. طبعا بالامتحان أنا ما أجيب لك ترانسكريبشن، أجيب لك السؤال والخيارات، فأنت تستمع إلى المقطوعة أو إلى الفيديو أكثر من مرة زين حتى تجاوب. طبعا بعد ما استمعت، يعني أنا أفرض أنه أنت استمعت إلى التسجيل، فنجاوب هذه الأسئلة. Why was Stonehenge built here? Because it's a strategic point. Because it's a strategic point. We don't know because there are rivers near the place. فنشوف بالتسجيل شو يقول. Why was it built here? There are no rivers anywhere near it. Who built it and why? There are many theories, including of course that people from another planet were responsible. يعني الجواب هو شنو؟ هو مو strategic point لأن كل شيء ماكو يمها ولا أكو أنهار يمها، فإذا الجواب هو شنو؟ we don't know. ما نعرف ليش ستونهنج انبنت بهذا المكان بالتحديد. How many people visit Stonehenge? On an average summer day, we get about 6,000 people, and throughout the year, we could be looking at upwards of 1 million people visiting the site. الخيارات 6,000 every day of the year, 1 million every summer, لو 6,000 every summer day. فالجواب يكون 6,000 every summer day. ليش؟ On the average summer day we got about 6,000. شوف الخيارات شلون نعطيها قريبات، فلازم تكون شوية دقيق بالإجابة. Stonehenge was built 5,000 years ago, 2500 BC. BC هنا قبل الميلاد. 2500 years ago. When was it built? It was built 2500 BC. هذا الجواب كلش مبين. What do we know about the people who built it? Who built it? We don't know much about the people who built the monument. We know they lived in a site called Darrington Walls, a couple of kilometers away of the northeast to the northeast. Okay, when was it high? Darrington Walls. Let's check a little bit. Darrington. We know they lived in a site called Darrington Walls, a couple of kilometers away to the northeast. بالشمال الشرقي. Okay. And we know this because we found evidence of huts inside. هذا جماعة الآثار معرف يعني شافوا إنه الناس اللي بنت الستونهنج هم عايشين بمنطقة اسمها دارنغتون وولز. الخيارات شنو؟ the place where they lived, nothing, we know a little about their rituals هنا تجي طقوس. طبعا الجواب هو أول واحد. احنا نعرف هم وين كانوا يعيشون. What do we know about the stones? They all come from Wales. Wales مقاطعة موجودة ببريطانيا. The small rocks come from far away. They all come from 25 to 30 kilometers away. The stones themselves, the large stones are sarsen stone. نوعها اسمها sarsen. A form of sedimentary rock, and it comes roughly 25 to 30 kilometers to the north, from a place called Marlborough Down. The small stones are blue stones, and they come from Wales, about 200 miles away. That would be about 260 to 280 kilometers from South Wales. So they come from a long way. الجواب هو they all come from Wales. How did they carry the stones? Probably using animals. Probably a lot of men were needed using advanced technology for that time. We don't know for sure who brought them or how they were brought. We know that they probably used rudimentary sledge. rudimentary تجي بداية، sledge تجي زلاجة. زلاجة. Perhaps to pull the stones, greased planks along the floor to pull them. We know that it probably would have taken about 100 men to pull an average sarsen stone. So then شنو الجواب؟ Probably a lot of men were needed. Which of these theories does he mention about? he هنا هو الشخص اللي يتحدث في الفيديو. About why it was built. Astronomical calendar, ritual, sacrifices, religious. Astronomical calendar اللي هو يجي تقويم فضائي، يعني تقويم باعتماد على الأجرام أو الكويكبات. ritual sacrifices هنا شغلة تخص طقوس والأضاحي أو الأغراض دينية. Why it was built is still a mystery. It will probably always be a mystery, and we know for sure that it was built upon the solstice alignment. solstice شنو solstice؟ شنو نسوي شو؟ محاذاة الانقلاب. solstice alignment with the longest day. بشغلة إلها علاقة بالأجرام ما أعرفها أنا شنو. So the alignment with the longest day in summer and the shortest day in winter. يعني تجي ما أعرف، يعني اللي فهمت إن تجي بمحاذاة أطول يوم بالسمر وأقصر يوم بالوينتر. So it could be an astronomical calendar. We also think it could possibly be a monument to the ancestors ancestors إلى الأسلاف. ancestors هنا أسلاف. And basically that's all we really know for certain. الجواب astronomical calendar. ancestors هنا تجي الأسلاف أو الأجداد. monument تجي شاخص. monument عندنا بالعراق monument أكيد عندنا كل شيء هو monument. مثلا جند المجهول هو monument. القطعة الثانية ويانا The Woman Behind the Voice of Siri. سيري الفويس اللي موجود بالايفونز. هاي القطعة ما خليتكم ترانسكريبشنز مالتها، فهذه عليكم تستمعونها وتحلون الأسئلة. بالنسبة للريدنج هنا how humans evolved language، شلون البشر طوروا اللغة. الأسئلة اللي عليه هو vocabulary and definitions and true and false. راح أقرأ لكم القطعة بس ما أحل لكم الأسئلة مالتها. حاولوا بالله بالأسئلة وشوفوا، لأن بالامتحان أني أجيب لكم writing و reading أو listening أو احتمال اثنيناتهم إذا القطعة قصيرة، فعندكم شوية تحاولون. Thanks to the field of linguistics علم اللغات, we know much about the development of the 5,000 plus languages in existence today. We can describe their grammar and pronunciation and see how their spoken and written forms have changed over time. For example, we understand the origins of the Indo-European group of languages, which includes Norwegian, Hindi, and English, and can trace them back to tribes in Eastern Europe in about 3000 BC. So, we have mapped out a great deal of the history of the language, but there are still areas we know a little about. Experts are beginning to look to the field of evolutionary biology to find out how the human species developed to be able to use language. So far, there are far more questions and half theories than answers. We know that human language is far more complex than that of even our nearest and most intelligent relatives, like chimpanzees. اللي هو الشمبانزي اللي هو هذا القرد. We can express complex thoughts, convey subtle emotions, and communication about abstract concepts such as past and future. And we do this following a set of structural rules known as grammar. Do only humans use an innate system of rules to govern the order of words? Perhaps not, as some research may suggest dolphins share this capability because they are able to recognize when these rules are broken. If we want to know where our capability for complex language came from, we need to look at how our brains are different from other animals. This relates to more than just brain size. It is important what other things our brains can do and when and why they evolved that way. And for this, there are very few physical clues, artifacts left by our ancestors. Don't tell us what speech they were capable of making. One thing we can see in the remaining of early humans, however, is the development of the mouth, throat, and tongue. By about 100,000 years ago, humans had evolved the ability to create complex sounds. Before that, evolutionary biologists can only guess whether or not early humans communicated using more basic sounds. Another question is, what is it about human brains that allow language to evolve in a way that it didn't in other primates? At some point, our brains become able to make our mouths produce vowel and consonant sounds, and we developed the capacity to invent words to name things around us. These were the basic ingredients for complex language. The next change would have been to put those words into sentences, similar to the proto-language children use when they first learn to speak. proto-language. حلو، خوش مصطلح proto-language. مرات يصحوا له bubbles كاسم شائع، يعني مو علمي، يصح له bubbles. هاي الحكي مال الطفل اللي ما نفهم منه، ليش يصح له bubble speech. No one knows if the next step, adding grammar to signal past, present, and future. For example, or plurals and relative clauses, required a further development in the human brain, or was simply a response to our increasingly civilized way of living together. Between 100,000 and 50,000 years ago, though we start to see the evidence of early human civilization through cave paintings, for example. No one knows the connection between this and language. Brains didn't suddenly get bigger, yet humans did become more complex and more intelligent. Was it using language that causes their brains to develop, or did their more complex brains start producing language? More questions lie in looking at the influence of genetics on brain and language development. Are there genes that mutated and gave us language ability. Researchers have found a gene mutation that occurred between 200,000 and 100,000 years ago, which seems to have a connection with speaking and how our brains control our mouths and face. Monkeys have a similar gene, but it didn't undergo this mutation. Mutation طفرة ناتجة. It's too early to say how much influence genes have no language, but one day the answers might be found in our DNA. هناك تعاريف مفردات وتعاريف. chimpanzees. Chimpanzee, the study of language relative to the way in which living things develop over millions of years. A species of ape هو نوع من القرود. Linguistics, the study of language. Evolutionary, relative to the way in which living things develop over millions of years. Civilized, socially advanced and developed. كمل الباقي. هذه true false. هاي إلها علاقة بالقطعة اللي قرأناها. على سبيل المثال the grammar of dolphin language follows the same rules as human language. True. true. لا هنا مفروض هذني true وهذني false. خطأ صار بالكتابة. True. Brain size is not the only factor in determining language capability. True. There are other factors. When people started using complex language, their brains got bigger? No, false. The role of genetics in language capacity is not yet clear. false. احنا نعرف اكو واحدة من الجين صار بميوتيشن فهذا أثر على language capacity مالتنا. حلو الباقيات. تحياتي.